Oslo, Norway, Fjords and Viking history. Elizabeth Vick stood on the deck of the ferry. Her coat wrapped tightly around her as the icy wind swept over the Oslofjord. The Norwegian capital lay behind her, a mix of modern architecture and centuries-old buildings, while ahead, the majestic fjord stretched towards the horizon. She had spent years studying Viking history, but nothing compared to experiencing the land of her ancestors in person. The ferry cut through the deep waters, carrying her toward Bygdøy Peninsula, home to the renowned Viking Ship Museum. As she disembarked and walked towards the museum, her mind raced with the stories she had read about the seafaring warriors who once ruled these waters. Inside the museum, she found herself face to face with the Oseberg ship, its dark wood gleaming under the lights. Over 1,000 years old, it stood as a testament to the craftsmanship and ambition of the Vikings. Her fingers traced the intricate carvings along the ship's prow, serpents and intertwined knots, symbols of power and mystery. The scent of aged wood mixed with the cool museum air, giving her a sense of stepping back in time. A historian approached, an elderly man with a beard as white as the Nordic snow. His eyes, filled with wisdom, reflected the centuries of knowledge he had gathered. It is said, he mused, that this ship carried a noblewoman and her servant to the afterlife. What stories they could tell, if only we could hear them. Elizabeth smiled, fascinated. The Vikings believed in an afterlife filled with endless feasts and battles. It's remarkable how they saw death as just another journey. The historian nodded. And they believed their ships could carry them to Valhalla. He gestured to an intricate tapestry hanging on the museum wall, depicting Viking warriors guiding their vessels through stormy seas, their expressions fearless and determined. Every carving, every artifact here holds a story. After leaving the museum, she ventured further into Oslo, following the cobbled streets to Akershus Fortress. The medieval stronghold had witnessed centuries of battles and sieges, its walls whispering tales of Norway's past. The scent of damp stone and the echoes of footsteps through the fortress halls made her feel as if ghosts of warriors past still roamed these grounds. Standing atop the fortress ramparts, she looked down at the fjord, picturing the longships that once sailed these waters, their warriors chanting songs of conquest, their shields glinting in the sunlight. She wandered into one of the fortress chambers, where torches flickered against stone walls. The past felt alive here, pressing in around her like an unseen presence. As she ran her fingers over the weathered surface of a Viking sword displayed under glass, she imagined the battles it had seen, the hands that had wielded it with fierce determination. Each nick and scratch on its blade told a story of struggle and valor, whispers of forgotten warriors who once walked these halls. From the fortress, Elizabeth took a tram to the historical museum, where she found herself enthralled by a vast collection of Viking relics, ornate brooches, iron helmets, and rune stones inscribed with cryptic messages from a bygone era. She marveled at the craftsmanship of the long-lost artisans, the intricate gold filigree that adorned the relics, and the sturdy iron tools that hinted at the Vikings' industrious nature. Later, she visited the Fram Museum, home to the legendary Arctic exploration ship, Fram. Although it was not a Viking vessel, the daring spirit of adventure that had driven Norwegian explorers through the icy wilderness resonated deeply with her. The Vikings had once ventured to distant lands, reaching as far as North America long before Columbus. Their legacy was not only one of conquest but also of exploration and resilience. The next day, Elizabeth embarked on a journey through the picturesque landscapes of Norway, traveling along the Oslofjord to the village of Drøbak, where myths of the fabled sea serpent still persisted. Locals shared legends of great Viking battles fought along the coastline, their voices brimming with pride. Further along her travels, she visited the town of Tonsberg, Norway's oldest city, where remnants of Viking settlements painted a vivid picture of everyday life in the past. She explored burial mounds and reconstructed longhouses, standing in awe at the tangible link to history beneath her feet. As she strolled through the bustling harbor, watching modern sailboats glide over the waters that once carried Viking longships, she reflected on the unbroken connection between past and present. The traditions, the stories, and the courage of the Vikings lived on, not just in museums but in the very fabric of Norwegian culture. As the sun set over the fjord, casting golden light across the water, Elizabeth felt a deep connection to the past. Oslo was more than just a city. It was a bridge between history and the present, between myths and reality. The spirit of the Vikings still lingered in the wind, in the waves, and in the heart of those who sought to understand their legacy. She closed her eyes, listening to the distant cry of seabirds, and for a moment she could almost hear the distant echoes of Viking war horns, calling across time. The rhythmic crash of the waves against the shoreline seemed to whisper ancient sagas, stories of honor, bravery, and an undying thirst for discovery.